everybody. Right, so in today's session, I'm going to look at the comparison of relational database instance with MongoDB, with how you may actually start with a relational database model and then we go for MongoDB. But later, actually, we can independently talk about these, right? So I'm going to start with the MongoDB instance, right? And then I'm going to use the command shell. Let me share the screen now. So here is what I have. Right now it asks me to enter. So let me enter. Now we are in the test. Right, okay. Now what we try to do now is I'm going to actually sharing a document on with some data, which I have actually already used earlier as well, but this time we are going to see how we can use the data, existing data, into a MongoDB database, and then maybe compare some of the commonly written SQL statement, how we can manipulate with MongoDB. Right, then we can discuss how MongoDB can be used, maybe independent of the data model specified here. Okay, so let me share the data now. So I'll be sharing this in the chat session. Okay. So there's a document called database example PDF, which I will put in the WhatsApp group. Yes, once you get the file, can you confirm me whether you have received it?
Doctor, can you please tell me how did you come to this screen?
Have you already installed MongoDB instance in your machine?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what I did there, I have MongoDB. Let me show you the folder first. I go where my instance is, and this is the place I have everything. It's in my C program files MongoDB server. It's a version 6 in bin folder. Are you there in the bin folder?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so then I double click on MongoDB, which should show you something like this. Let me share that screen as well. So when you double click it, can you see whether you can see some screen like this?
Yes, sir.
Or are you getting any errors?
Yes, and it disappears.
Ah, okay. So that might be the problem then. But you were managed to do our first task successfully.
No, sir, I couldn't do that also because
Okay.
I couldn't open this.
Okay. Yes, the other way is we can check. Now the problem is now your MongoDB service is not running. Without that, we cannot get the second screen. So that was the problem. So we need to figure out. So what we did so far right now, we created a company database and then we included 3 reports. We have done 2. First record as John together with the research department details, and then for the Franklin. The third one now we are working on Alicia. So she's a female and salary is 25,000. Supervisor. Department, this time department number 4, that is administration. Right, now that we have done 3 records. So for example, I can just check this df dot employee dot find. Sorry, just to check. Yes, here are the 3 reports, how it formats. So we have, you can see now, department is also embedded here. Actually, all the in actual case, full denormalized case, you have to have everything inside this, right? Now let's try to run some queries on this. So for example, okay, one more thing that I actually couldn't talk to you last time is resource in, if you want in a very formatted way. Let's try to this same command. Let's say employee dot find, use pretty method. Usually you can have some not the change. Now let's try to find some records. Let's say we have some salary. Let's say let's find those whose salary is greater than, let's say, 30,000. Yes, shall we try the command? Those who have already know a bit on this, can you share the command? Okay, let's say I want to find out employees whose salary is, let's say, greater than 25,000. So we can say DB employee, fine, will give you everything. So now what we need to find out is we need to filter, right? So when I say find, we have to check on salary. So we can say salary, right? And then we have to specify the what value. So for that, we have to say, let's say greater than. So we can say greater than, let's say 25,000. Okay, so I made a mistake by adding one more. That was the problem. Yes. So make a note of this. Earlier, I have put actually 250,000. So this is a very simple script where we will have salary and then salary value greater than 25,000. So the right now from the data, if you read the table, you can see there are first two inserts because we have inserted only first three. So we'll get two records which says, okay, this. Similarly, let's try to have another command which says, okay, a salary less than, let's say 35,000. Can you share the code with me? Salary is less than 35,000. Yes, Satish shares the answer with that salary is less than 35,000. Okay, that's good. So if you look at what I typed last time, I put salary greater than 25,000. So here we can say less than, we can say less than, let's say 35,000. So it should gives us, we have two cases. Right. Now, I want to discuss one more important thing. If you have finished up to this part, can you raise your hand if you have finished this part? Those who have finished up to this part. Right. The next thing that we are going to discuss is how do you query this embedded document, which is now the problem is within that we have some information, right? Now, for example, in this particular case, we have to figure it out the employees whose works for research department. So first of all, let's try to, get them. Let's try to find everyone whose work for research. We can try that, isn't it? So for example, instead of this, let me just say fine, will tell us everybody who works, right? The second one is we have to say, okay, within that we need to find out the department. So if we say department, it's one thing, right? So let's say department. And then let's say, because the department name is within that, let's put the dot. to specify that, and then maybe we can say, okay, research department. So I made that mistake. The file will tell us everything what we had. We said salary. Okay, curly brackets I missed. So let me check. So the curly bracket I missed. Okay, it's perfectly working right now. Thanks, Siraj. Right. The next one is, okay, now we have to apply the condition on the same thing, because now we have found out who's works for the research department. And let's say their value should be, salary is less than 35,000. So we should give us only one answer. Can you extend that one as well? Right. Okay. So let's try to combine this. So the two queries that we need to find out is, first one, the person should be in research. And then at the same time, we have to say the salary should be less than, right, 35,000. So we can list what we want to have. So one way to do is, we can, now we have boiled down this one here. So now first one is this one. We have to have the department name should be research. And then we have salary. We identified the salary should be less than 35,000. So you can see now by putting up the conditions, now we can get, okay, we have one person, John Smith, works on this. Now, remember now, when I discussed this example earlier, I told you, usually the best way would be to represent some collection is putting everything, denormalized form, which then it's easier for us to manipulate, but then sometimes we have some practical scenario. So the next thing that I would like to discuss is like what we have seen in relational databases, the relations, how we can maintain with the same here, right? So instead of putting everything inside, how do you maintain that connection? Right now, the department I have embedded, this is version one way to model this. And that is the best one if possible. But when you have very complicated database, like in my case, you see there are multiple references which make sometimes very difficult you to put it in that form. But of course, if the design is allowed the denormalization, I would say that is the best option that you can think of. Right. So having said that, as the next one, let me discuss how we can actually model the same database, right? We'll create a separate database and we'll do, but I'm going to maintain employee and also the departments as separate, collections, and trying to make a reference, right? Okay, but before that, yeah, can you let me know whether you have finished up to this part? Okay, thanks everyone. So let's try to now find out how we can actually model, right? So now let's first, let me start like this. Again, the objective is to create a database which try to have the references. Now you notice something called object ID here, which is unique for each of these records. So what we are trying to do is we are going to keep that information so that we can refer the object which refers from this object ID, right? So that's what we are trying to do here. Okay, but to do that, you have to be very careful. Now again, let's go back to the data set. Let's create a separate relation. Let me say company one. So I'm going to say is company one. And okay, sorry, we have to check what we have. Right. So we have company, now we are into company one, which we don't have anything. Now I'm going to create the same thing, but in separate way, but this time I'm going to be a little bit careful because I'm going to, the order is important. Let me explain what this order means to when you are entering data. Now, can you go back to the data set first? Now, remember, there are some circular references where when we refer the others, right? Now, for example, right now, for example, if you look at the database, let me take the database now. Let me try to explain what I'm trying to do here. Now you see, when we want to like embed, we didn't completely embed, but now let's say we are going to make a complete one-to-one mapping of relational database model to a MongoDB using references. The insertion of data is very, very important. Now, first of all, things like this. Now, for example, here we have employees, but you have supervisors, which again reference the same employees, right? So because of this reason, I would like to start from place something like here with James, not with John, because here you don't have any references, right? We can, make it empty. So you don't have, the value for that, right? So we can start with a person like this, which it will be easy because there's no reference. But then after that, you can have a like Franklin, for example, which is, supervisor will be James and then John, that is there. Now, similarly, the departments are also the same, right? Now, once you have the James, then we can have headquarters because the manager is James, right? So likewise, you are to be a bit, you have to be careful when you're, putting it, with object IDs. So let's try to model this. Maybe I will start with the employees. I will start with James first. Right. First of all, I just want to, explain why I want to, put James in the database. Right. Now that we have understood the idea of, trying to put them. So let's add a data set. I'm going to get, from the previous one, but I have to be very careful now. So this time I'm going to insert the James details, that means the last employee, because we don't have any supervisor information for that particular person. So simply we can just enter the first name. So I will say employee. I can say, okay, James. And then let me put E. Then we have book. Social security number is, we have 888. 665555, and the birth date is 1937, 1110, 1110, and then we have the address 450 Stone, Austin, Texas. Yes, then we have gender male, and then salary is 55,000. Okay, I'm not going to include supervisor social security number. We don't have to, right? Okay, I made a mistake actually. The department I should have included first. Okay, that was a mistake. Okay, let me explain why I'm going to cancel this out. And I will explain why I'm going to do that. So anyways, I will put this, but then I'm going to empty this because there's one thing is missing, because he is working with the department number 1. Oh, okay, that was kind of an issue in this case. It's circular anyways, because department we have to have that, and then we have null. So maybe we have to update this later on. So let's start with this. Anyways, we have to do this anyway. So let me put that. So we have one record db.employee.find will now have object ID. Okay, this is where we need to keep track of. Right. Now let's create other employees as well, and then try to reconnect. So I'm going to have the department. Early, I actually didn't put department managers because of this reason, but I think we can start with the department. So let's start recording department now. Let's say db department dot insert 1. Okay, let's put up department name, research, department name, research, department number, we can say 5. Okay, so manager. Social security number. Right now, instead of that, we can actually put manager, and then we can refer the object of James. Okay, so the point here that we are going to make a reference now. So we can say, okay, whenever you want to access the manage information, you can now refer the manager. So the idea is we simply just type object ID, and that value is there. So let me try to copy paste. Hopefully I will be able to. Yeah. So I copy pasted from there. So that is the manager information. Now we have put up the manage information. So which actually create a reference to manager details. And then let's put the manager start date. So we have 1981, 690. Ah, okay. This is with Mongo Dash. Let me check. I don't know whether I have to remove that one as well. Let me okay, maybe I have to define it before I used it. So let me check. So creating a new one will be easy. For example, yeah, I'm just checking the reference. Just to check like why it is not working in my case. So how many of you were able to type this without any issue? Just let me know, because I had earlier with the date operator as well. So I think the idea is obvious. What we are trying to do here is now, here we have created a reference. And then the manager, in my case, let me check whether I made any mistake. I checked the Siraj one, it's identical, right? Your one is working.
You have to put these are small letters, so object ID, no?
Okay, yeah. So yeah, thanks for pointing out. I don't know whether I have done the same for the ISO data as well. So guys, the error was like I put capital D here. Thanks, Siraj, for pointing out. Yes, exactly. That was my mistake. Right, now if you say db.department.find, yes, now you can see properly, which gives you an idea about like, now you are referencing manage information from the record that we have inserted earlier, right? So in this way, we can actually make the connection with the database without embedding them. Embedding, the problem is sometimes, some cases it's easily possible, some cases it's not that easy. You see, when you have circular references, it might be difficult in my case. Now you can see there are circular references which sometimes you have difficulty in embedding everything. But remember, in MongoDB, putting everything into one single document, if possible, that's the easiest, because you can search the whole document at once. But when you have normalized databases like this, and if you are going to implement in the similar version is MongoDB, we can compare these different implementation, and that is exactly what we were trying to do. So let's try to write some, add some more, and then we'll try to repeat the same SQL statements that we have discussed earlier, and we'll finish off for today. Right, now let's start. Let's add a couple of more data on the users. Now this time we can go back to adding, let's say, Franklin. I will have Franklin earlier, so let me check. Okay, this is Franklin's one. So yes, okay. So I'm going to say DB insert Franklin, and then yeah, the manager. In this particular case, supervisor, social security number, department information, that also we have to put. So therefore, yeah. So for the time being, we can put the separate details, but here we will say, I will say supervisor. I'm going to get right, supervisor social security number. For Franklin, now we already have the information about our supervisor, that is James Book, right? So now we can use the object ID. So let me copy paste from here. He's the one. So I can refer that, right? And Franklin's department number 5 research, we have not put yet. So maybe we have to update later on again with the similar way as Franklin. Right, so I will put the information now here. Okay, maybe again I made a mistake. We have employee insert 1. Okay, I forgot to put the curly brackets. So I put a curly bracket here. Use, okay, we now got another object ID for our second employee. Now let's look at the employee details. We have 2 employees, James and Franklin is we have put up, and then we have object references as well. Right, now let's add the department. We can add the research department as well. So let's add the so I think yeah, what we have inserted is slightly different. Let me check. So now the data is department. We have to say okay, so there's a mistake here, because in this one is not correct, because the object reference is slightly different. Let me remove and insert from the beginning so that we can make the correction. you can see my problem. I added research department, but the manager I specified is not correct. I may put the manager as James, but the research department manager should be Franklin. So either you can update. So let me try to drop off the records, and then yeah, we'll collect from the beginning. So we can say db.department. So let's say delete many. So just now try to use remove. Now we don't have it. Right, now let's add the same thing. But before that, I have to get again the employee details correctly. So let's try to find employees correctly. Because what we had earlier, we put up now it should be okay. So let's add another record for headquarters. So this time again, I will get James book. Now this is what I need. Again, I think I made the mistake, same mistake, sorry again. I have to remove it again. This is what I need to copy. Let me add again. Now I did it correctly. So now let's add the other department as well. So this time I have to use headquarters. The department number. Here I have to specify the object ID. Okay, manage start date is okay. Now we can see employees okay. So department is there, but department find will not. Let me check. Right, okay. Let's summarize what we try to do here. So there was a small error. I came into adding two departments. Let me check and get back to you the answer. So today's session, what my plan was to show you the difference between the relational database and also NoSQL database. In this particular case, MongoDB. So we tried two things. One is embedded document. That part we have successfully finished. That means we will try to put into a single file. That means we normalize all the relations. Second one, we discussed the idea of this object ID and use that as to reference to the other records which we have not finished for today's task. So let's continue with this. By that time, you can also work on your own problem. And as the next assignment, the next task would be to compare your databases, your implementation with both the relational database perspective as well as NoSQL in MongoDB perspective as well. So having said that, let me finish for today's session. I'll share all the videos and also the notes with you so that you can start the next assignment, and we'll continue the basics. In the next session, we are going to look at into more details on the data distribution part. Right now, we discuss the NoSQL database design and features and operations. So the next topic that we are going to discuss next is how we can have replication, for example, especially when you are going to have in multiple nodes. So with that note, I am finished for today. So let's meet next week with the continuation of this. Thank you. Then we'll meet on next week.
Thank you, sir.